my product owner classes, I typically welcome a product manager or product leader to the session to make a couple of things clear. There are differences between product owner and product leader and product manager. And when people come to my product owner class, I'm not teaching them about product management or product leadership. I might introduce them to some concepts that are in the same space, if you like. I would not want people to be deluded that I have taught them about product management or product leadership. Marty Kagan, with his Silicon Valley Product Group, has a great set of workshops to help people understand more about product management and product leadership. I can help people to become product owners. I'm a product manager myself. I lead in product development. I develop products and services. But still, I like to work with people who are doing it on a day-to-day basis even more than because I also do other things like agility coach, depending on what engagements I have going on at the time. So let's talk about what a product leader does, at least my understanding of what a product leader does. And when I'm talking about product leader here, I want you to imagine a situation where we have a product, a vehicle for delivering value that is recognized by the customer or end user. They understand what it is. When you mention it, they know what you're talking about, and they pay for it with either their money, their time, or their data. Somebody is producing it and somebody is consuming it. And so if you have a real product and that product is externally facing, just like I mentioned, and if you have multiple teams working on that product, you're going to have a situation where you might have multiple product managers. If you had product managers working in teams, the product manager might act as a developer in a team from a Scrum point of view. A tech lead from a product management point of view would operate as a developer from a Scrum point of view, and the design lead would act as a developer from a Scrum point of view. There's a bit of tension there between Scrum and product management, because in Scrum there are no defined roles, if you like. That said, Kanban is another option to consider, and complexity would be a good option to look at to avoid that tension. So in a multi-team situation, if you have product managers and teams, you still only have one product owner from a Scrum point of view, and you probably only have one product leader as well. I'm going to start with the product leader. And the first thing I want to say is that the product leader operates in the problem space and the discovery space, also getting involved in discovery to deliver. So what do we mean by the problem space? A lot of people say, well, what's the point in delivering if you don't understand, if you haven't discovered whether we can actually get that value, whether people actually want that. But even discovery is mute if we're looking at the problem through the aperture of a solution, as De Jong would say. So sometimes you need to understand more what problem it is that we're trying to solve. And without wanting to make it sound like we're doing any big design up front or anything like that, that's not what I mean. We do need to make some effort to really understand the problem, and the product leader is really strong in that space. For example, they might have something like a briefing document in terms of explaining, maybe there's some kind of one-pager explaining the what problem we're trying to solve and what the options are and all those kind of things. You might have a business model. In the product owner class, we often make a lean canvas, for example, and we often make a customer value proposition, and those two concepts are really from the product management space. We'd speak the lingo. It's not good enough to be good, we need to be perceived to be good. Do we really understand the lingo of our stakeholders in other departments in the company, and also our customers and end users? The product leader would have a roadmap and would be very comfortable with showing a roadmap maybe over a number of years. But the product leader would also act as a performance coach. I like what Marty Kagan says, a product leader is only as good as her worst product manager. So the product manager is somebody who needs to be performance managed, just like every developer on a team needs performance management. And there's a product wall as well, which is a concept from product management, where you go to one place where you see all sorts of information about what's going on with the product. In addition to that, there are some things that a product owner would do that a product leader would also do, like, for example, creating a vision. In product management, I don't hear so much talk about product goal, but in Scrum there would also be a product goal, which would be an intermediate step towards the vision, if there was a vision. And I guess that's kind of aligned with the whole idea of a strategy as well. So in a sense, the strategy is how you're going to implement that vision, and the product goal could be one step towards that. The product owner, just like the product leader, would maximize value, would manage expectations in relation to uncertainty, would have lots of market knowledge, would be killing products. That was one of the first things that Steve Jobs did when he went back to Apple. He killed lots of products so that the organization could be really focused. And the product leader and proper product owner would scout for unmet needs, would be trying to understand whether there are satisfaction gaps, and most importantly would say no. There are other aspects as well, like inspiring people. That means you need to be inspired yourself. You need to observe, you need to listen, you need to learn, you need to improve, and you need to be able to support the whole notion of self-management. But the Scrum Master will be helping you with some of these: inspiring people, observing, listening, learning, improving, and self-management. And the Scrum Master would also help the product leader in terms of facilitating team effectiveness, being an agility mentor, being a complexity coach, acting as a change agent, and removing impediments. In addition, developers and product owners would also take on some additional responsibilities, and the product manager, if you had one, might be taking on some of these ideas in the set of developers on a Scrum team. The product manager in particular will be looking at the customer analytics. Product backlog management, even though it's owned by the product owner, would typically be delegated to developers in a very good Scrum team. So I'd be expecting, if you did have that triad of tech lead, design lead, and product manager, as Marty Kagan talks about, if you did have those kind of responsibilities within a Scrum team, those people could really do a very good job of leading on that product management and facilitating a situation where the rest of the team really has a common understanding of what it is we're trying to achieve and how we're going to solve problems for customers and end users and how we're going to avail of opportunities. And also there's a lot of time to think as well. So we want to be careful that we don't do all the time. They're not always focused on delivery. There's also discovery. So we're thinking about what we need to do. And the developers and the product owner will really be focusing on, with the product leader, we'll be focusing on what are we actually going to deliver that's going to deliver on the why, that vision, and the strategy to implement that vision, which might be implemented partly through a product goal. In addition, developers would focus on the how, so the product manager, tech lead, and design lead from a product management perspective would be very involved in that. They would be involved in sizing with the rest of the developers in the team, and they would make sure they deliver a done increment. In Scrum, there's a definition of done, and I hope that when product management and Scrum merges, that the whole concept of done doesn't get squeezed out like mustard out of a hot dog when you try to take a bite out of it. So the developers in the team, of which you would have a tech lead, design lead, and product manager from a product management perspective, would build it and would deliver it. In addition to this, of course, the product needs to be supported. But one of the things that Scrum would do that I don't see mentioned so often in product management is the whole idea of a sprint goal. The sprint goal and the product goal are mandatory in Scrum. Thank you.